I thought I'd just put a little clip together of this 6x2 viv that I keep my, it's got a pair of Ocellata in here. This is 6x2 that I made from the plans. So ventilation wise, I've got 2 vents down the back there, and there's another one down the back there, and another one over there, and on the hot end I have 3 at this side and 2 on the back. So there's a centre section in this one because it's I've actually got one stacked on top. It was causing a sag on this one, so I've got a centre section in it. This is just sort of 4 inches wide. Move that door. This is like 4 inches wide, and it's just a double piece of ply. I've not actually fixed this into position. This slides out, so when you move the substrate you can knock that out, and it just makes it easier to get in for cleaning and whatever. So that's just a basic sort of overview. I'll just show a bit of the detail here of the background. So the idea of this background is to create different levels, so you're offering different light values, different you can see they use every bit of it. There's a bit of poo up there. Different light values, different temperatures, so you know it's hotter up the top here than it is down the bottom here, say. So there's just lots of little bits and pieces that they can sort of scurry around, sort of get round in and out of everything, you know, sort of get through the back there, and then there's another bit sort of down the back there. There's all these little gaps and areas. So this is a cold hide at the cold end, so the entrance to this is down the back there. This is actually split inside into two separate chambers, so they could both, there's 2 animals in here, so they could both kind of have the hide at the cool end if they wanted to. There's a warm hide and a platform down that end, but I'll show that as a separate piece in a minute. There's the little guy. Pretty sure this one's a male, just hanging about watching me. He'll run away soon because he doesn't like the camera. So with the decoration wise in here, I've got this is just a piece of coconut branch, and then there's just a couple of bits of cork flats, so they can kind of get underneath those cork flats. They've got sort of gaps underneath, so if they get spooked they've got somewhere easy to scurry to. But yeah, so there's lots of climbing, lots of different ideas for where they can get different light levels and different heat levels, and that's just an overall of it. They do use every inch of this. I say I'm looking around now, I say I've noticed some poo in different places, a bit of poo up there needs cleaning up. There's a bit down here as well. So they do use every inch of it. They've actually got their favourite spots. So I've created 2 basking spots, but I'll touch on lighting in a minute. But one of them sits on that platform there, and the other one's favourite spot is just up on this ledge up here. So the idea of this background, as well as having lots of interactive climbing for them to climb and get, you know, keep active, as well as having different warmth, different heat levels. You know, it's warmer at the top than it is at the bottom, and there's different lights. The other principles are sort of line of sight breaks. Obviously I'm housing 2 together. There can be issues with dominance, and you know, they might just not get on. So you know, it's kind of common practice to give line of sight breaks, so you know, they can kind of, one of them could kind of sit up here, and the other one, even though they're both out in the open, they can't actually see each other. And that's kind of the idea of the line of sight breaks. Kind of just minimise dominance if that's you know, could be an issue. So I'll go down and have a look at the basking site and show you what the hide is down there, how that works, and then I'll have a little look at lighting and heating. So this is the warm end and the basking site. There's actually 2 basking sites in here. As I say, I'm keeping 2 animals in here, so they need to be able to bask independently. If that's you know, one's dominating the other, they're actually not. They're getting along quite well, to be honest. But it's always wise to create 2 or more basking sites if you're keeping more than 1 animal together. So the main basking site here. This is, I'll run through the lighting in a short while, but this is the main basking site. It's set at the right distance to get a good UV, and with the lighting I'm using I get good temperatures here. And then across just to the left of this there's a secondary basking site. This is lit with a different bulb, still reaches a good temperature, but it's different to the main basking site. And because it's away from the main basking site, I actually get a different, slightly lower UVB reading there. So even though it's higher, I actually get a lower temperature with lower UVB readings. So they've kind of got a choice. It doesn't have to be sort of all or nothing. It's all about choice. So, you know, based over this sort of area, yeah, if they're basking here, they've got the most heat and the most UV. They can kind of bask on the sides here, so they can bask around here, they can hang about on the edges, and then they've got this other site up there as well. There's also a little ridge on the back there as well, which one of them quite likes to hang out on. It gets quite warm up there, just a touch warmer than the site directly below the lamp. So I'll just show you how I've made this. This is there's a hide under here. The entrance to the hide is there, and this is there's a big gap under here. So all of this is removable. With any of these backgrounds, you need to consider that the animal can't get somewhere that you can't. So if you need to get at them and get them out, you can. So this main the main basking site is a platform. This lifts off and shows us another platform underneath. So again, we get it's a bit like a Reeties stack. We get a different temperature on here than we do on the top, but it's still nice and warm. Here's the little guys. I think these are a male and a female. I think the big one's a male, the little one's a female, but I'm not entirely certain. Hey, you guys. Hey, you guys. Come on then, jump out of the way. There you go, it's just scurried off into the hide. Jump out of the way, you. Come on, go on up there. So then this section here, this lifts off to show the hide underneath. Come on out of the way. So this whole section lifts off as well. Again, this is made with, this is all the polystyrene and tile adhesive that I use. And this shows us underneath here is a big hide. So there's a big, the entrance is here with a nice long sort of corridor almost to get into the main hide. I keep this slightly damp. I mist this with a spray bottle. Only the little one tends to use this hide, if I'm honest. I might as well mist this while I've got the lid off. I mist this every couple of days. This is just the same substrate in this hide that I use throughout the rest of the enclosure. It's a mix of, well, let's get down and get up close. What are you doing? What are you doing? That's it, good lad. So this is it's kind of sand and soil and rock. This is a mixture of a couple of shop bought types, but yeah, there's bits of clay in there. But yeah, you can sort of get up close and have a little look at you know, what that's made up of. Bits of dried food. I tend to climb it all over the place. I tend to leave some of the food, the dried bits, in there. I don't worry about picking it all up, but they do tend to eat this. They will eat the dried stuff. So anyway, that's that big hide. They will use it. They do use it. The little one more than the big one, but yeah. So that's the main hide under the hot end. I say I keep the I keep this slightly damp so that it's humid. You need heat to create humidity. If it's just cold, you put a humid hide, a damp hide at the other end, it won't be humid, it will just be wet. You need a bit of heat to create humidity, which is why I keep the humid hide at this end. So for the basking site lamps, I use a number of different things. The idea here is, because I've got two animals, is to create a big basking site with multiple choices. So I've got the main basking site here that I mentioned earlier, and then there's a secondary basking site here. They're both heated with different lamps. So the main basking site uses this is an incandescent bulb. This is actually an Arcadia solar flood. That's a 75 watt or a 50 watt. I can't really see. I think it's a 75 watt. And then I've got the deep heat projector. So, and then on the other basking site down there, I use a GU10 halogen bulb. This is just in a fitting that I can angle. These fittings are by Reptile Systems, but it allows me to direct it down at this basking site. So I get a second basking site here and a main basking site there. But overall, it gives me a temperature range of sort of 130, 35 at the back. Sort of it ranges down to about 115 at the front here. And anywhere in between sort of 120, 125, and then I hit 120 up here as well. So it creates a whole, not sort of a basking spot. I don't like the term basking spot. I like basking site or basking zone, and this creates a big zone. I mean, this is sort of half of the enclosure is this is the centre rail, so yeah, it's almost half of the enclosure is dedicated to basking in a different temperature range. So it works well. I say one of the animals particularly likes to sit here. The other one likes to sit up here. I quite regularly see one sort of perched up here. You also get, because of these different heights, you get different UVB readings. So I'll just have a quick look at the UVB setup. So because I've got the deep heat projector, this one here, this doesn't actually produce any light. This is the same as the Mega Ray, similar idea to the Mega Ray that's been around for a long time. This is a 50 watt deep heat projector. Anyway, so because these don't produce any light, you need to add some light in another form. So I use this one here. This is a Arcadia 15 watt Jungle Dawn LED bar. It's quite expensive, but it really does throw out a lot of lumens, really lights the place up. And then I've got the standard Arcadia 14% UVB tube. This is in an Arcadia fitting, but there's lots of other T5 fittings that are around. So yeah, standard T5 14%. The tube finishes about here in relation to this basking site. So there is some sort of overspill from the tube. So I tend to get UVB readings over here as well, up at this height, and on floor level down here, I'm kind of drop right down to sort of UVB being sort of 0.5, sort of 0, and then there's no UVB on the cool end. So that's just a quick look at the basking site. Temperature control wise, what I do is I've got the GU10 and the incandescent. They're not controlled by any thermostat, they're just on. They're on for the standard sort of 12, 13, 14 hours a day with no control. The control I use is for the deep heat projector. So the probe for heating this is all the way down here in the cool end. So excuse that bit of snot on the glass, I couldn't really see that until now. So the probe is all the way down there in the cool end, which kind of seems counterintuitive because you think you're trying to control the basking site. That's not what I don't see that's what a thermostat's for. A thermostat is to stop the enclosure overheating. So the idea is that I use combinations of bulbs here and combinations of heights. I mean, this, I can't alter the height on this because it's a custom built background. But the idea is to alter these bulbs and adjust the height to get this to the right temperature, and then install the thermostat set at the cool end temperature so that the cool end doesn't overheat. It sounds counterintuitive, but it's the right way to do things. The trouble with putting a probe at this end and controlling this is that you may never reach the right temperature, at which point it just keeps heating up and heating up and heating up, which means you've got no control over what happens down that end. That end could be way too hot. So the idea is to just use it as a safety device that will cut off the heat if it starts to get too warm in here. Now that's just an overview of my heating and lighting in this 6x2x2. The animals are nowhere to be seen. They've gone camera shy. They're under there somewhere. Can't see them. Anyway, that's it. So for the supplementary lighting on the cool end, I've got a number of bulbs in use here. I use this is a sunblaster fitting, a T5 sunblaster with a 6500K tube. That's the tube it comes with. And then I use these LED GU10 lamps. So these are in 2 different colour temperatures. So that one is a 4000K, and this one's a 3000K. These have got a really wide beam angle. The beam angle on these is 120 degrees, so it floods the whole area without seeing sort of an overlap or a spot type thing. It just fills the area with the same sort of mixes the light together, should I say. And if you can see the colour difference on that one, that's slightly whiter than this one, which is slightly warmer. So that's the supplementary lighting. I'll just show you the brackets that I use for these. So these fittings are GU10 ceramic fittings. You can buy these on eBay. They're about 80p. The only problem is that the cables come out of the back, so you can't screw that directly to the ceiling. So I've made these little brackets. These are just a bent piece of aluminium. Bolted the thing to it to allow the cables to come out the back, and they work really well. The beauty of these fittings, it's just an advantage. During the colder months, it can be a little cool in here sometimes. So these bulbs can just they just come out. You just take them out, and I could actually put a halogen in that one, the same sort of halogen that I've got down on the other basking site. So you could sort of raise the temperature here slightly by putting a halogen in there. These do actually get quite warm. That's warm to the touch. LED lighting does get warm, but it raises the ambience slightly, but not too much. So it's just another little advantage of using those GU10s to fill this end.